As someone who grew up in the 1980s, I can tell you in the language of that era that this list is like totally awesome, radical, and on a scale of minimum to maximum, it is to the max. It has action heroes, alien robots, buffed up muscle dudes, and plenty of ninjas. Possibly too many ninjas. We may have overdone it on the ninjas. Hi, I'm Dan Larson, and this is the top 10 action figures of the 1980s. To put this list together, we reached out to you, the viewers of Toy Galaxy, on various social media platforms, including Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and our Patreon. We asked you to vote for your top 5 action figures of the 1980s and didn't really give you any more guidance than that. Do Transformers count? Is this your favorite figures or the figures with the best engineering? Ultimately, it was left up to you to determine what best meant to you. Hundreds of voters submitted thousands of votes, and this is the result. Number 10 is 1983 LJN Advanced Dungeons & Dragons WARDUKE. WARDUKE is an evil fighter, just in case you aren't so good at picking up on context clues. Glowing red eyes floating in a bat-winged helmet, horned skull shield, scale mail armor, spiked boot. Your instincts should be to recoil from his "do I look like I have a plan" appearance. But like so many bad boys, you just can't help being drawn in by his devil-may-care attitude. Because dressed like that, it's possible he actually knows which devils may or may not care. It's possible this figure resonates with so many because he's an outsider, and that is what powered him to the 10 spot out of so many incredible action figures that received votes. It's also possible he's the direct beneficiary of some ranking shenanigans, which we will go over right now. Number 9 is 1988 Playmates Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. All 4 Ninja Teens are taking the 9 spot because there's no way you can put just one of them on the list. It's basically the same figure painted 4 different ways with different accessories. Any vote for any turtle was counted as a vote for all the turtles because they truly are an inseparable entity. Like the classic Ninja Turtle saying goes, all for one and one for all, my dudes. Is it fair to treat the Turtles as a team on a list of best action figures, regardless of whether it meant the inclusion of WARDUKE? Let's call the judges and see what they had to say about it. It's ringing. It's still ringing. We probably should have set this up beforehand. You know what? We'll come back to this. Number 8 is 1984 Matchbox Voltron, technically Voltron 3, lest we forget that the US rollout of Voltron products consisted of 3 different Earth defense teams, all sharing the name Voltron. Voltron 1 was originally Armored Fleet Die Rugger 15 in Japan, Voltron 2 was originally Lightspeed Electroid Albegas, and Voltron 3, the one ranked here at the 8 spot, is Beast King Go Lion, a giant combining robot formed from, as his name states, 5 lions that go. Like Ninja Turtles, there was no reason to list the lions individually, as Voltron itself is a single figure regardless of his ability to be broken down into 5 figures. Good news for WARDUKE, who would have been in the 16 spot if not for a series of very generous rulings from the judges. We're on hold now. Number 7 is 1984 Hasbro G.I. Joe Storm Shadow. Storm Shadow wasn't the first ninja action figure, but for a lot of kids he was their first ninja action figure. The white-clad, dual sword-wielding assassin stood out amongst a sea of camo-adorned personnel with practical military specializations like jeep driving and bazooka shooting. Of course, this kind of a statement move by Cobra recruiting a ninja wouldn't be ignored by G.I. Joe, who would respond with their own ninja and a karate guy just a year later in 1985. What followed was a ninja-centric arms race that would increase in intensity over the life of the line and throughout the action figure industry before consuming itself in 1993. Number 6 is 1982 Kenner the Empire Strikes Back Boba Fett. A lot of you voted for Boba Fett, and for that, at the very least, you have all won my heart this day. My love for the green-armored lipstick jetpack intergalactic scuba man is well documented. Lipstick Jetpack, by the way, the name of my new band if intergalactic scuba man is already taken. While Fett was technically date-stamped 1979 because he was technically first released in 1979, the majority of his availability was during the 80s on Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and Droids animated series blister cards. Sure, it sounds like a rationalization to get Fett in here, but is that legal? Let's see what the judges had to say. Oh, great news. Thank you so much. They said they'll allow it. So glad that decision didn't come down to me. Number 5 is 1983 Hasbro G.I. Joe Snake Eyes version 1.5. Snake Eyes was originally released in 1982, and while he was unique right out of the gate, version 1.5, released in 1983, featuring swivel arm battle grip, known today as bicep swivel, would help elevate Snake Eyes and the entire G.I. Joe line to Hall of Fame status. Featuring increased posability, a bold black ensemble, an Uzi submachine gun, the weapon of the 80s, and a handbag full of explosive charges, all Snake Eyes was missing was a mysterious backstory that allowed your wildest dreams to fill in his origin story. Oh wait, his file card has the word classified stamped all over it! Snake Eyes the Commando was the first version of Snake Eyes that Joe fans fell in love with. Covert ops, sabotage, infiltration deep behind enemy lines where the only way the mission could get done was if Snake Eyes did it. A world of people whose fates, unbeknownst to them, were in the hands of one man whose only flaw was being really good at kicking and punching, but not quite ninja good. Number 4 is 1985 Hasbro G.I. Joe Snake Eyes version 2. 1983 Snake Eyes was popular. 1985 Snake Eyes would be just as popular by design. Roll that beautiful bean footage. All right, guys, Snake Eyes is selling a lot of toys for us here at Hasbro. How do we keep that gravy train rolling? Ideas now, go. Uzi. Sword. What about a visor that makes him look like a medieval knight? Kind of like a wrist arrow launcher thing. Yes, yes, great ideas, all of it. Put all of it in. Jericho, you're our best toy designer. You've been awful quiet. Do you have any ideas about what would make version 2 Snake Eyes better than version 1?
Yeah. A wolf.
Hard to say whether version 2 Snake Eyes brought in new Snake Eyes fans or merely split the base into two factions. Factions that, even for this list, can't come together and end up splitting the vote. Snake Eyes would have taken the top spot easily if everyone could have agreed which one of the two versions was best. Heck, even version 3 and 4 got some votes, but despite the flexibility of the judges, each version of Snake Eyes is just too distinct to be combined, so Snake will have to settle for taking 2 of the top 5 spots instead of being number 1. Number 3 is 1984 Hasbro Transformers Soundwave and BUZZSAW. The first appearance of a Transformer on the list, but it was worth the wait. One of the most popular characters, one of the most popular gimmicks, all wrapped up in a box of modern-day irrelevance. No character has struggled to get over their dependence on the past more than poor Soundwave and his family of cassettes. From the top of Popularity Mountain all the way to the bottom of Dead Technology Valley. But none of that mattered in the 80s. Soundwave was not only a relatively convincing cassette player, but also one of the few Transformers that had some real-life posability early in the line. Some actual points of articulation like elbows and hips and a head that could look left, right, and up. Technically, this doesn't include Ravage, Laserbeak, Rumble, or Frenzy, but also it does. Part of what made Soundwave so amazing was the ability to refresh his functionality with each new cassette with a Decepticon designation, and the fact that Blaster, the Autobot's spiritual clone of Soundwave, didn't even crack the top 50 on this list serves to strengthen Soundwave's status as a great Transformer and one of the best figures. Number 2 is 1982 Mattel Masters of the Universe He-Man. Look, I know Masters of the Universe was popular back in the 80s, but I was not expecting He-Man to show up in the 2 spot. As a figure, he clearly left a mark with everyone who spent time squishing his soft, hollow head or swapping his arms with Man-at-Arms and Stinkor. He had a relevant action gimmick that didn't interfere with or in any way distort the proportions of his already exaggerated physique. And from a character design standpoint, you didn't even need to follow the mythology to know what his powers were. Getting big and beating stuff up, hitting monsters with his sword, stopping evildoers with his axe, riding his tiger to his skull castle, hanging out with all his beefcake friends. Other than appearing in a few completely ineffectual advertisements in the last few years for a company whose name and purpose I cannot remember, the Masters of the Universe brand has been kept alive purely by the will of the most die-hard core fans. The last animated series ended in 2004. Approaching his 40th anniversary, there's a lot of buzz off on the horizon about a new film, which will surely feature new action figures and possibly a new cartoon. With any luck, he'll join other 80s powerhouses that are as popular today as they were when they first arrived. And at number 1, 1984 Hasbro Transformers Optimus Prime. Optimus Prime led the voting the same way he tears off faces, handily. It wasn't even close. Optimus Prime was the face of the brand in 1984. His brilliant red and blue color scheme, the sheer size of his truck mode compared to every other figure released that year, and his role as a father figure within the line made him a must-have for any kid interested in form-changing robots. While he wasn't the most posable figure in robot mode, he wasn't exactly a brick either. Shoulders, elbows, wrists, ankles, knees, hips that moved in one direction. Like Soundwave, a lot of that was inherent to his transformation, but so what? Not only did he have more points of articulation than He-Man or Boba Fett, but he also transformed into a truck. The number one takeaway from this list is that Optimus Prime has, by far, had the best agent since the 80s, and it's not even close. You may not like everything he's done since the 80s, but there is no denying that he has had more industry success than all of the other characters on this list combined. Those are the top 10 action figures of the 1980s as voted by you, the viewers of Toy Galaxy, a worthy cross-section of the industry at the time. 6 different manufacturers, 7 different lines, spacemen, turtles, robots, warriors, and ninjas. Ninjas! The best things that ever came out of the 80s, by far. Thanks for watching. Please hit like, hit subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Thank you very much to those of you who already are. Take a quick look through our merch down below this video. But before the comments, if you're in the position to help the channel grow, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/toygalaxy. Going into this, I had a pretty good feeling what 1 through 5 were going to be. It was the 6 through 10 that I wasn't so sure that could have gone anywhere. As it turns out, 1 through 5 were a big surprise as well, so thanks for that. And thanks again to everyone who took the time to vote. My favorite are the people who straight up championed their guy, and it's the only vote they got. I love you for your passion. Mr. Miyagi, Crocmaster, Murdoch from the A-Team, and every member of the Centurions all garnered some votes. GoBots, Cap Rifle Robo, I see you, and I appreciate you.